want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you. Good morning, Mad Men Mafia.
Good morning again. I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
For you. These are real conversations.
With real men.
We just having healthy conversations.
And we're real men's. We're USDA real men's.
You know what I'm saying? Healthy conversations we be happening up in here, man. We got one today.
Yes, sir.
Hey, first of all, before I go any further.
What happened?
Nutella got a new snack out, man.
Uh-oh.
It's kind of changing my life.
What is it?
It's like a Be Red or Be Ready or something like that. It's kind of like if you can picture, you know how they have the vanilla wafers.
Mm-hmm.
So the wafer part, but it's Nutella inside. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of baked in one of them little wafer things. I had one of them at the from the gas station on the way here, man.
So you
changed everything.
So you have a fat kid dreams, what you're saying?
Everything, man. I've seen
Change
the
your
other
life.
side of the rainbow. I can't go back. I can't go back, man.
Changing your life.
It's like that thing my wife did. Now I can't go back.
Easy radio.
It's a family show, man. It's
radio.
A family show. FCC, man. FCC.
Radio. Let me tell you.
Speaking of, I don't even know what. That was a bad segue. We got a him in the building, man. We got him. We got him. I mean, for real, him. You know, they got the female musician, her. Well, this is like the male version, but not a musician. But this is him. This is the one and only. This is the man.
It is the man.
The one and only.
The Tower Power.
Mr. Barry L. Overton. How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be with you guys yet again.
Yeah, thank you for fighting traffic and getting all the way up here for us, because we know how that's not easy.
Yeah.
We turn some light on for you. Pow! Now we can see you.
Barry L. Overton. Man, I mean, we go back like car seats at this point. But man, you know, you one of those connected people around town here. Anybody in the Denver metro area, they probably, if they don't know you, they know somebody who does. You know, a lot of the stuff you do, of course, you're, you know, one of the biggest real estate gurus around anywhere in the area. Man, you be in Colorado, you be other states, international. You know, you're a passport player, man, when it comes to the game, man. And but you're not even just one dimensional like that, man. You do all kinds of other stuff, man. So first and foremost, how's life?
Man, it's been good. It's you know, just got back from San Diego yesterday, headed to New York next Tuesday, and really both of them are just kind of opportunities to unplug. My wife is actually, she's speaking. So we're actually going to Boston and New York. She's speaking in Boston. I'll tag along with her, and then we'll go play in New York for a couple of days. And you know, it's just one of those things where this is that time of the year, especially when things are really busy in real estate. One of the things I learned for myself is I have to have that me time, and I have to, you know, have that us time for me and my wife, and being able to, you know, even just step away when things are busy. But, you know, I've been blessed and been able to put a team in place where we don't miss a beat. You know, my clients are still taken care of. And I mean, actually, I gained 3 clients while I was in San Diego. Wow. So yeah, it's been good.
Well, that's why we wanted to have you in again, because I mean, we love talking to you anyway, because you're one of just the best guys we know. But we want to talk about your story. Like, how did you get to? I mean, because we just see you living the life that we wish we were living.
Really?
We see you just balling out, and we're like, well, how did he even get there? And we know some of your story. I mean, we talked about you being a former police officer and then getting into real estate and kind of doing that at the same time. But I mean, like, what happened before? Like, what's the beginning? What's the origin story?
We see the picture with you know, back when you were MP, you know, in the army, right? You know, that helmet on, that green army helmet. I don't like that helmet, man. I wouldn't join the army just because of that helmet. But anyhow, man, yeah, you got a story, man. I mean, you know, you wasn't just born like this, man. You got a road to this.
Yeah, no, man. You know, it all started on a dark and stormy night. Back in 1968. You know, it was really one of those things for me growing up, and I always share this, where at 17 years old, I knew what I wanted to do. and I wanted to be a police officer. And the fortune of it was, I grew up in Austin, Texas, and grew up in Section 8 housing. I never lived in a house as a kid that my mom or I was a single mom. I never grew up in a house that she owned, but I always had dreams, always had aspirations of what I wanted. And the person that I looked at, as far as a role model, was my uncle. He was actually the first African-American sergeant, lieutenant, and captain for the Austin Police Department. And, I just emulated what he did. He was also a real estate investor. So I saw success from him. I also saw, I had some cousins, some brothers, some other family members that were on the other side of the law. And, I had choices I could have made, and thinking of this quick, fast money, but I also saw them orange jumpsuits they were rocking. And I was like, no, I don't look good in orange. I'm not trying to go that route and, spend any time in prison or anything. So, I made a decision at 17. And, when I look back on it now, I realized that I became a military police officer at the age of 18. Got on with the civilian department at the age of 21. And that was the plan. And I stayed with a small department in Alabama for about 2 years and came to Denver. And once I got established in law enforcement here, the very next step was at 27, I owned my first property. By 29, I was buying my second. 32, I was buying my third. And then I became a real estate agent at the age of 32 as well. So it was, again, I think growing up the way that I did, it caused me to mature a lot faster than most, and really put together a game plan, because I said, I don't like the reality that I'm living in. So I had these dreams and these fantasies of what I wanted life to look like. But I also said, they can't be dreams for long. I got to turn those dreams into reality. And so just putting a plan in place. And still to this day, I'm 55 years old. I still dream. I still put the plans in place of what the next steps look like.
That's amazing, because I guess it probably maybe a question to you is, because you had both examples. I know sometimes people have one example or the other, and so they don't really have a choice, but you had both, and you're like, well, I think I know which one to choose.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Because I definitely grew up with people that only had one example of what success appeared to be, with the quick, fast money from an illegal standpoint. And, a lot of times that's why we see in African-American and Black and brown communities where the same decisions are made, because we only get one example. But that was, the fortune for me, that I got to see another side. And then I had enough discernment to realize, okay, this is the better route to take.
Yeah, it sounds like, you just kind of looked at it like, apples and oranges, which way do I want to go? And then you actually made the choice and you used your dreams. But how was it when you did make that choice, when your friends were like, you gonna be a cop, man? How'd that go down?
I didn't get a whole lot of pushback from it. And so I had actually between my junior and senior year of high school, I enlisted into the Army at that time. And I don't know that I told a whole lot of people that, what I was going to go in to do. I just told them I was going into the military. And literally 20 days after graduation, I was shipped off and going. So like I said, I made the decision early on, went to college while I was in the military. But and then, I never went back home, because that was the other thing, is once I got out, do I want to be a police officer in my hometown? And while I considered it, it was like, it's probably better to go somewhere where I don't know as many people.
Yeah, it's funny because there's so many correlations, because my family's from Central Texas, so they're from Lampasas, Austin area, and then both my parents are Army, so we went to Germany and then came to Alabama, and I finished actually going from Southern Germany to Alabama. When I hit the shores there, I'm like, you talk about culture shock. So I did the same thing, like delayed enlistment. So like between junior and senior year, I'm like, get me out of here. And so delayed enlistment into the Air Force, and then right after graduation, it was like a month later, I'm standing on that little square in Lackland, like, getting yelled at, like, this is awesome. I'm glad I made this choice. But I mean, it's kind of the thing. So yeah, we have a similar kind of background of the South, and then coming to Denver to try to bring some flavor over here because
and all of this is, I mean, we're leading up to something. We're leading up to a bigger concept that we want to talk about. And all of this is kind of setting the stage for all of that kind of stuff. And kind of like Jason in different ways, I relate as well. I saw all the wrong influences in my family. I grew up in DC back when it was the murder capital of the world. And, I visited many relatives in prison, and, I didn't know anybody. I mean, going to higher education wasn't even a thing. I was the first one to graduate college and all of those kind of things. And so, I can relate to the idea of seeing something, but also seeing other stuff and making choices of which way am I going to go. And to your point, like I've never lived back in the DC area since I left 3 days after high school graduation. So I mean, I love the fact that that three men from different places can really have a whole lot of similarities, and again, especially leading to the whole idea of us as men, and how do we, and just the fact that we go to the next level. So I mean, I think it's great that we all kind of share these things. Like,
yeah, you made a mention of it because I like to make posts. I like to stir the pot and things, and so we had a big pot stirring. And the funniest thing is, it's always the ones that I think are just kind of innocuous. I just like, oh, that's kind of funny, and I post it, and everybody lose their minds. But it was just a silly post about it's funny how men have to be financially stable and successful to date a broke single mom or something like that, and then
oh man,
that ruffled a lot of feathers. And it was just kind of like, this is our experience. And what was really interesting about that whole thing was how the guys almost across the board were like, yeah, that's my experience. I've seen that. And so I know in that vein, we definitely want to talk to the guys about how to become successful and how to become discerning so that you have more choices. Let's put it that way.
And I think, and as we were just kind of communicating about what we were to even talk about today, the way you saw Barry from the periphery. You didn't jump in. You didn't jump into the fray.
Barry's like, I'm gonna stay out of that mess.
No, my brother, you won't know. I mean, you saw that melee that went on in his timeline, but you had a different perspective in that whole thing.
Yeah. And for me, it's anytime I see a post like that was one where I almost put the Michael Jackson meme popcorn.
Me too.
I was like, yeah, Jason about to get cooked over here. But it was one of those things. And as soon as I read it, though, I looked at it totally different than what it said, and it just came because I started thinking back on me, and it's like for me, it was always one of those things of I got to take care of me and get me right first before I'm really worried about a relationship. And I can tell you at the age of 28, and this is like in the 90s. I was making six figures a year as a police officer. I was working, we had all this overtime and all that. So I was hustling, but I was making six figures a year. And from the age of 28 to the age of 55, I've only had 1 year that I didn't do six figures. And that was a year I was transitioning from, one business and going full time into real estate. And so it was always one of those things of, and for me that, from a financial standpoint and not, from the fact of looking, good on paper to the opposite sex or anything like that, but more so for me and making sure I'm secure. I put different things in place for myself in order to make sure that worked. And then what it did from a self-esteem standpoint, I think, and I think being in the military and being a police officer, you carry yourself different as well. So I think the self-esteem piece becomes a big part of it. And a lot of times we put a dollar amount, the six figures on our value as to who we are, but there are good men out there that make 60, 70,000 a year.
Amazing guys.
Amazing
guys. Hey, we're a little bit long on this one. We're gonna come to a break and we're gonna come back and keep unpacking this thing. Madman of Masculinity, KLDC will be right back. Boom. Man,
So how much better was Six Figures in the 90s than it is
Oh
today?
man, yeah, that was
Oh man, yeah, it's crazy to think because it was a lot of off duty and things of that nature to be able to do it. But man, it definitely went a long way. Because my first house was 137,000.
wow.
Yeah. I know. I look now and like even the apartments I live in, which are built in the 60s, bad plumbing and all these things. Maybe it's just all location, but they're still $250,000.
Yeah.
For a little 1-bedroom, 600 square foot apartment. It's like what?
Yeah.
But sometimes I think about moving back east, back to Alabama or Texas, just so I can be like, I can afford this place.
Yeah.
But
But it's all relative because, like in those places, right, salaries are lower, right?
Yeah. That's always the crux to it. It's like it may be cheaper, but you don't make as much either. So
Right.
yeah, we should dig into that, unpack that a little bit too, because
that's where I think like what you guys do here, you can do this from anywhere basically, other than the radio show. But when you can tap into doing business,
Anywhere.
and then you can live in a less expensive place.
That's something I'm doing now is kind of adding more virtual stuff, but it's hard when you work 45, 50 hours a week, and then you want to try to add this job, and then you got this job. So I got 3 jobs working on full job.
All right, here we go.
And we're back.
Yep.
This is the Mad Men Show.
Mm-hmm.
I am Jason B. Kendrick.
I'm Kirk M. Samuels.
And this guy over here is Barry Overton.
Barry L. Overton. The L stands for lit. My man is lit.
This one
in a good way. Now I don't mean lit like like
calm down over there. Watch out. Watch out.
Lit, like,
when we talk about your 5 best friends and your circle of influence, that's why we keep bringing Barry in. We're like, influence us, make us better. Just being around him makes us feel better.
So we were talking about the whole idea of men kind of leveling up in their personals before they really think about the bigger picture, like specifically relationship and all that kind of stuff. And I mean that's kind of where we left off. And you were talking about just your transition, way back in the 90s. The 90s was like 30 years ago.
Yeah,
man, that's crazy, dude. But anyhow, you're talking about just the transition into just the from a profession and from a where you are, what you have kind of perspective as a man, into just the mentality shift that came along with that.
Yeah, and for me, I wasn't into personal development in the 90s. I was in my 20s at the time. But what I realized is there were certain principles in regards to personal development that I was just following without even knowing it. And Wallace Wattles, who wrote the book, The Science of Getting Rich, he talks about how whether knowingly or unknowingly, when you follow certain rules and laws of the land and these principles, success will happen for you. And that's kind of, just what I was doing, like that whole, the duplicating, following in the footsteps of my uncle. I didn't realize that's a principle, of following success. Success leaves clues, and being able to follow in something that has already proven to work and just copying it. So for me, it was a lot of that, and just truly feeling like I was just blessed along the way. And then as I began to get older, and then got into personal development only started for me about 15 years ago. I was like right at 40. And once I really started to understand that, it just opened up so many new doors for me. And probably the biggest thing that I learned is mentorship. And you just said it, you're the sum total of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so I had the same thing. I started changing who I'm spending time with. I started spending time around multimillionaires and realizing that they just think differently. And I realized, I left the police department at 45, and a couple of years prior to leaving, I realized that I was the guy that was very negative, and we have a water cooler talk about something negative. I was the one leading it, and by the time I left, because of the growth in personal development, I realized I couldn't be around negative conversations anymore. And still to this day, I mean, I remove myself, or I change the subject when negative conversations start. Hence, that's why I don't get involved in those Facebook, posts and things of that nature. I eat the popcorn and watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so it's still to this day, I will always be learning. At 55, at 65, at 75, I will still be in a state of learning.
Yeah, and it's a great point, because personal development, I mean, one of the things that I think is not seen or not talked about quite as much is what your experiences growing up is what you tend to be successful at. And that's one of the things I think people don't realize. Like, you are successful. You may be successful at being, not having much. You may be successful at lacking. Maybe, it's like you may have an abundance of lack. Mm-hmm. And because that's what you learn. And I know for me, that was it's still something I work on because of how I grew up, Southern middle class Army family. And I remember thinking to myself in the late 80s, before my dad got back to the Army, and he was making like $60,000 a year. And on my mind, that set a benchmark. I've been past that for years now, but of course, inflation and everything else, I'm probably still, if we did the numbers, I'm probably still underneath that, just because of how much further that went back in the day. But that's something to be realizing, is whatever your upbringing was and whatever your example was, sometimes you have to either overcome that or change that and redefine. Like you said, you get around you want to be gossiping around the water cooler or having these negative conversations. That does have an impact.
Hey, Barry,
a big impact on what you get.
Barry, what are some of the areas in a man's life that he should look to with the intention of leveling up? If a guy says, man, I want to take my life to the next level, right? I mean, what are some of those areas in his life that he might want to examine or unpack or dig into to quote unquote level up?
I would say first and foremost for me was recognizing your gifts. And one of the things, we all have a gift. And I think that, what Jason was just saying is that we have these experiences in life. And a lot of times there are things that we're really good at, and we don't realize that it may very well be a gift. I can tell you, from the time my voice changed in my early 20s, I was always told, man, you got a voice for radio. Look at me now. Where am I at right now? So
don't be trying to take our job, man.
We were told we got faces for radio.
Yeah, well, it still led us to radio. Sure. So,
but it's one of those things that I heard that over and over. But then eventually, I heard you have a voice, and it wasn't necessarily that the actual physical, the speaking, the tone. But I have a voice and I have something to say. And that's what led me to writing 3 books, over the last 4 years, was realizing, okay, I have something that needs to be said and I need to share it with the world. And it was, for me, I always look at all those people that were saying you have a voice for radio. I look at them as messengers from God, basically sending me a message saying, hey, look, there's something bigger for you out there. And, when I was a police officer and when I was in the military, what I did is I served, and I enjoyed serving. I served my country. I served the community. And what I do in real estate, I serve my clients. And what I found is that is where my purpose lies. The things that I do involves me being able to serve others. I've had different business opportunities where it was a money grab, and they say, okay, we got an opportunity to make an investment here. It's going to be a quick, easy, deal. And those deals never work out. And I've always realized that if it isn't about serving other people, it's not in alignment with who I am. So, I think it's important that, number one, find your gifts, and then find your purpose, because those are 2 different things. A lot of times people think your gifts are your purpose, but your gifts can lead you to your purpose. Like I said, for me, I think part of my gifts are, the ability to network and collaborate with people. Every time I had a meeting today, every meeting that I have, I come out of it with that person saying, okay, I need to introduce you to this person, because you guys have some similarities. I need to connect you. Having a networking happy hour event Wednesday, same thing. I mean, I will be in there. I'll pull a person across the room and say, you got to meet this person. And it doesn't serve me. I don't earn anything financially from that, but I just know that there are people in the room. There are people out here in Denver that needs to be able to get to know one another. And that's a part of the service that I bring. And it's just like you said, I mean, people now know me because of the connections that I've been able to make with other people, other influencers, you know, here in the Denver market.
It sounds like you kind of took Zig Ziglar's motto of, you know, the best way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want, and ran with that, because it sounds like you're like, because it's all about service, and we talk about that quite a bit, especially in relationships and stuff. Is you got to come with that mindset of service. You know, how are you serving the relationship? How are you serving your partner? And I think to your point, it goes into business, because maybe I need to get out there and find some more service work and find somebody to serve.
Yeah. You can serve me, wash my car if you want. So.
You can't afford me.
You can caddy next weekend when we play golf.
You can't afford me there either.
If passion is the kind of the intersection of what you do, crossed over with the why you do it, I see you having passion in what you do. Let's say from a real estate perspective, in your story of, you know, growing up without a place that was actually owned by, you know, by your mother, by your family, and now ironically you help people own, you know, property or own houses into home ownership kind of thing. I mean, one wrinkle of what you do a lot of things, but just even in that, I kind of see the two, you know, crossing over. And so do you think that having passion involved in, let's say, even something like you just mentioned serving or service, do you think having passion is kind of the fuel that you throw onto that fire?
Yeah, definitely. And a perfect example of that, so the happy hour we're doing, I'm a captain or an ambassador for a nonprofit called Project I See You. They give a grant, a $10,000 grant to single moms for first-time home ownership. Or if they own a business, they give them $10,000 grant for their business. Well, I just had one of my first clients go through that program and get the grant. And they actually interviewed her on Denver 7 News. And so for me, though, it's not about, you know, being a part of this organization for notoriety. It's about growing up as a kid and realizing that the house that I lived in as a kid, we never owned. It was someone else's house. So it's almost for me like going back into time and saying, man, if they had something like this when I was a kid, we could have taken advantage of this. But now I'm out here trying to see how many people can I impact with programs like that. And the beauty of it is, man, right now there are so many different, this is just one grant program that's focused on single moms, but there's so many grant programs out there for anyone to be able to take advantage of. I want to be the messenger. You know, I want to be able to share that with those people, you know, men, women, whatever the case may be, you know, black, brown, white, it doesn't matter. If that's what you want, and you think that there's this obstacle of, you know, finance, of a down payment, of all the different things, let me show you there's not. You know, I've had people get into houses with less than $1,000, you know, that they came out of pocket on. So being able to educate people and then point them in the direction of all these programs that are available. Once again, that's where my networking comes into play, of building relationships with banks and nonprofit organizations and saying, okay, let me go get the buyer now to connect with these different programs that they're not aware are out here.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, why we keep having you on is because of what you do and why you do it. Because, I mean, I didn't know what to put in your bio. I was like, he's a businessman, he's a realtor, and I'm just like, he's just a good man. So speaking of a good man, we want to make sure we take a break so we can talk to the other good men out there. We are the Mad Men of Masculinity. We'll be right back.
Hello, Colorado. I'm Barry Overton, your innovative real estate broker, where your goals are my top priority. In this ever-evolving market, it's crucial to have a guide who not only understands the ins and outs of real estate, but also thinks ahead and ensures you're always one step forward. With over 3 decades of expertise and commitment to leveraging cutting-edge strategies, I am dedicated to providing unparalleled service. My approach is simple: knowledge, innovation, and a steadfast dedication to your best interest. So whether you're buying or selling, I can help you navigate the real estate complexities with ease. I'm Barry Overton, transforming dreams into addresses, one home at a time. Call me today at 303-668-5433.
And we're back. What are you doing over there, man?
You know what I was doing?
What are you doing?
I was tagging Barry L. Overton on my Facebook feed, man. I was, man. See, you think I'm a chump, man? You think I'm just over here just like taking my nose. And
I see you over there slumped over off camera, playing in your bag.
My phone's over here charging, so I went back to my phone. Okay. I got on my timeline where I'm sharing this video. Hint, hint, everybody out there. I'm sharing this, and so I went back and I edited post and I tagged Barry L. Overton. Yeah, so now it shows up on his time.
We're trying to get in your network, baby. Trying to get in that network.
Man, I mean, so the whole idea of men kind of taking life to the next level. Do you think any guy can level up, or do you think some guys, just chill where you?
Basically, he's asking if you think I can level up or not.
See, you're so sensitive. You always talk about I'm the sensitive one, man. You sensitive, man.
Sensitive.
But if JBK thinks he's at his absolute limit, if he thinks he's at his pinnacle, do you think no, you're not, or do you think, well, if you think so, then you are?
No, I truly believe we have more ability than we ever even use. Even with me, where I'm at right now, and highly successful people, we can still take it up, another level, another notch. But for me, it was believing that personal development part of believing in me and what I have the ability to be able to do. That was the first start of it, because I was a police officer for 26 years because it took me 5 years of personal development, and then I left the police department. But in that time, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I was afraid to step out because I had a guaranteed paycheck and a really good one versus going out there and being on my own and having to be make it all happen on my shoulders. Right. That was scary. And it like I said, that 5 years of personal development and then putting myself in front of the right mentors and realizing, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. And having the plan, put in place. And now, it's, so I always give me as an example, because if you would have met me at 35, I was the same guy that thought this is what I'm destined to do, and, I didn't, I wrote a book, Ignite Your Greatness, where I'm saying ignite your greatness. I'm not saying ignite greatness where it's like aloof and only certain people can get it. I'm saying, no, you got to find it inside of you. It's all inside of all of us. And we've got to be able to just find it and then light a fire under us that can be put out.
So sounds like, I just want to clarify for everybody listening, because I know there's a lot of people, probably, and myself included, that are like in that kind of same boat of trying to prove to themselves that they can do it. And because they want to do it, they want to get out of the 9 to 5, they want to do their passion full time. But it's the personal development and the mentorship that really helps you cross that. Because I know in my experience is like, you hear that voice and it's been the voice in your head for 40 years saying, well, that's all you can do. Well, you can think all these big thoughts, you can have all these fantasies, but this is you. But having personal development, having mentorship, that's really how you kind of rewire the brain, if it were.
Yeah. Because that I heard that same voice, but over that 5-year period, that voice started speaking different things. And now the voice that I hear is, again, number one, first thing in the morning, I'm just excited to get up and hit a new day and have a new experience, whatever it may be. Usually there's a plan for whatever the day coming. And I'm just trying to, I always tell myself, I'm never competing with anyone else. I compete with that guy in the mirror. And at the end of the day, I say, hey, you had a good day today, but I'm going to kick your butt. I'm going to kick your butt tomorrow. I'm going to be a better person than I was today. And that's really just kind of the mindset that I've now taken on. So much to the point, and I don't share this, and I've never shared it publicly. I will share it in trainings, but I always ask the question to people, when do you think you're going to die? Nobody knows, when they're going to die. But you ask me, I say 120 years old. Why? Because the Bible has said God has given us 120 years of life. So I created a mindset for myself of and I also have a cousin that died at the age of 112. Richard Overton. If you look him up, he was the oldest World War II veteran living at the time that he was alive. And for me, someone that had my namesake that was 112 years old, I said, why am I thinking that I'm going to die in my 80s or 90s? And we're living longer now anyway. So I created a mindset that I'm going to live to 120 years old. What it now does is I create a behavior that aligns with that. So, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and now I'm eating better because I know those are all the components of better, longevity and longer lasting life. And then, continuing to work out. I still work out 5 to 6 days a week. I'll do that until I just can't. And I'll figure something to do to continue to move. And so it's created a behavior in me that those are the things that I do. And then, while, I'm 55 years old, if you look at my Facebook, I don't act or talk like a 55-year-old necessarily. And I certainly don't learn from a 55-year-old standpoint. I'm right here. We were just talking about AI. I'm learning as much as possible that I can about AI because it's the now. And, I'm not going to be one of those people that get left behind and say, oh, can't teach an old dog new tricks because I don't want to be an old dog.
Right.
When you said that sometimes you say to yourself at the end of the day, you had a good day. So that implies a measure of success.
Mm-hmm.
How much should a man, and I do want to specifically talk to men in this one, how much should a man put value in a measure of success? How much should he tie that to a bank account?
I think it does play a role because a lot of times our goals are tied to finances. It's tied to making a certain amount of money. But we also have to look at, sometimes we want it now. We live in definitely a microwave society where we want this goal and we want it now. And a lot of times we have to look at it from a standpoint of it's going to be stepping stones to get to that financial goal. And I think, again, if you are getting better at whether it's your profession, if you're getting better as far as how you take care of yourself or, your thinking, your mentality, your relationships around you, the finance piece, honestly think when you're getting better in all these other areas, the finance piece is going to naturally get better as well. So I don't think you need to tie it to finances. Now, if it's a situation where, you're making $60,000, but you got $80,000 in debt or in bills, then yeah, you may need to see it happen faster for you. But if again, it's just about putting the plan together and building to that because, I'm telling you, what I did at, 27, 28 years old, I'm making $100,000 a year. I went to college, but I didn't finish college. So to be in the 90s and making 6 figures a year consistently every year without a college degree, you didn't see that a whole lot. To make what I do now, you definitely don't see that from someone that doesn't have a college degree. But I surrounded myself with people that have college degrees, and I've been able to learn from them. And I remember, that was one of those things when we talk about negative. I felt very ashamed of not having a college degree, even though I was very successful in doing well. And through the personal development, I got over that. And I realized that, no, I'm a good person. I am doing right by other people. And, I'm ambitious and I'm pursuing my goals. I'm smart. I have the ability to give me a task. I'll figure it out. So, I realized that this whole degree that I was kind of embarrassed of not having was not, something that I needed to worry about.
You said a couple things, and I kind of wanted to pinpoint them because I think it's something that we as men need to focus on is that it's not about the money necessarily, but but about the service and the purpose and allowing the money to come naturally. Because you said about, having those opportunities. Well, this is a deal. We're going to make some money. And then those deals always fall through because it's not about service and gratitude or even being of service. So is that something you think most men should probably focus on, like more of the service oriented, purpose oriented, and allow the money to be kind of the result of that versus making the money the focus?
Yeah. I think truly when you are working, especially when you're working with other people, one of the things for me right now is while, I want to make income, I want to make increased income, but I don't focus on my income. It's just like what you were saying, Zig Ziglar, you help enough people get what they want, you will eventually get what you want. So my whole goal now is not what I'm going to make. I want to help 10 agents over the next 3 years to make $10,000 a month residual. Not having to close one real estate transaction, but they have residually coming in every month, $10,000. And if I'm helping them do that, my income is going to increase as well. And that's really, I've operated from that standpoint for the last 10 years, and it's served me well to be able to do that.
Sounds like I'm coming to work for you. Just saying.
Well, the reason that I think about the tie between success or accomplishment and a bank account is because, let's be honest, a lot of guys, and whether that's us or whether that's society putting that on us, whatever, a lot of guys tie that to like, man, I thought I'd be further along in life right now than where I am. Whether you're 30 or whether you're 50 or 60, I would say definitely way more than 51 out of 100 men think, man, I thought I'd be further along than I am. And one of the ways that we can and we do quantify that is by income and bank account and all these other kind of things. And then if you tie that to, to Jason stirring up the pot on social media, when it comes to how much a guy has in the dating world and all these other kind of things, there is some level of value to that. And, there's some people that didn't like that thing that he quoted, but I say, hey man, when I was single, I still have, but I had a nice crib, but I had, females come over and be like, this is all you got? And I'm like, yeah, but everything you got is from your ex. Right. And so there is some of that put on us in terms of what we have and all of that related to the financial piece. And so I wonder if maybe as men, we need to somehow cut some of the strings that tie us like a puppet to purely just the monetary value of who we are in terms of our value to society or the dating world or kids or just the world around us, the way we see ourselves in the mirror.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is we have to stop worrying about what other people think in regards to our lives. Mm-hmm. Because again, the moment you start thinking about what other people think, it takes you off. Like if you have a set goal for yourself and things that you're trying to do, that becomes a distraction and it takes you off the path of what it is that you're trying to achieve. So, and that was one thing for me. And, I can tell you, I apply that pretty much to all aspects of my life is if I'm doing something and I want to do something and I'm moving in a certain direction, I don't care what anyone else thinks because I know I've thought it through and it was well thought out. And I know that, okay, this is the direction I need to be going and I don't worry about it. And the funny thing is whether, maybe they're saying it behind my back, but no one ever says it, directly to me that, man, that's a bad idea. Or you shouldn't be doing that. Or, why do you think that's okay? I never hear that. And
that's because you're a big, strong former cop. Push somebody
they're ready to tell you in your face.
Yeah, for real. That is why. But yeah, I mean, that's a great point, man. A lot of times we do think about, and again, you speaking to our single guys out there, same thing. A lot of times we move such that, we're concerned about how we look and the appearance and all this other kind of stuff. And so it's like, man, you got a whole lot of nothing.
Well, and that it kind of, and probably something we'll really dig into in the fourth quarter, but it comes down to, as men, we need to prioritize ourselves and our goals and our purpose so that we can vet better. Because I understand, I got reamed over that post and I completely understand the single mother's perspective. Like I got bills, I got kids, I got to make sure my new partner can help support that, because it's hard out here in these streets. I get that. What I was trying to say is that it's more about like the attitude and the, expectation and kind of the entitlement with that it's a turn off. But I get it. And I think what we need to do as men is just get ourselves to a point where we say, I have options. Because I think a lot of times what tends to happen is they're just kind of grasping at straws, and whoever's giving them attention, like, okay, but they don't feel like they're foundational enough to go, yes, no, maybe, out of here. Like they need options, which comes from their own like kind of self-confidence and personal stuff.
And when we get our poop in a group, then then kind of everything else falls in line. I believe everything else falls in line with that. And I had that as my personal experience, my personal story. Just once I kind of said, wait a minute, man, let me get my stuff in order. Then all of a sudden, stuff came together. So speaking of coming together,
let's come together.
Let's come together on a break. Our last break. We'll be right back. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC. Boom. That's good stuff, man.
I like it.
That's good stuff.
Are you still invited, even though your event's sold out?
Oh yeah, we get it.
Some of us went in and got a ticket.
I got a ticket.
Well, I got one too. So we in there.
Now, of course, like I said, my day job is it's one of those things where it's like as soon as you start putting it out in the universe, like I want to do something else, the day job like starts ramping up.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, because like maybe tomorrow I'll be doing a 12-hour day, and then Wednesday I'm like, I need to have my stuff ready so I can just go from there to there. But some days it's like they wear me out.
They be wearing you out, huh?
Mm-hmm.
They be wearing him out.
Not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
Not in a put a smile on my face way.
Easy,
just hurting me.
Hey man, it's a
Made me
family
tired.
show, man. It's a family show.
Now this is the break.
That's true. We can say whatever we want on it.
Yeah, I did. You ready?
Hey, you see him over here
Put your phone, man.
stuff, man.
See what I gotta deal with?
I'm trying to make sure, we live. I'm trying to make sure anybody's saying, sounded weird or nothing like that. I'm doing tech support back there. All right, let's come to home stretch.
All right. Yes, we are back.
Yep.
We are the Mad Men Show.
I'm over here drinking some pre-workout.
Pre-workout.
You know what I'm about to do.
You about to go get your swole on?
No, I'm about to go home and lighten up. Baby, I'm on my way.
Hey.
No, man. Man, I'm about to go.
So is that pre-workout those little blue pills? Or?
Easy, man.
Oh, what happened? What happened?
You see me over here drinking this, man. You see me over here, man. I'm about to go get my, I'm motivated by Barry.
I know. He come in here making us look bad.
I'm trying to get my swole up on too, man. Although I got a problem with you, Barry.
Uh-oh.
I got a problem with you, man. You thought I forgot.
Uh-oh.
Thought I forgot. How do you become Barry L. Overton and you don't play golf?
Oh, here we go.
Well, I don't play golf well. And it's probably, I always say, if I had more time from all the things that I'm doing, I could probably play better. But I think it's because of, the commitment that I have over in these other areas that keep me off the golf course. I can do a little bit of top golf because the holes are the size of a semi truck. So,
well, I'm not gonna let you get away with that excuse because Jason is terrible and he still plays.
Yeah. I mean, we just figured, you're a big networking guy,
No, but I'm telling you, man, that was one of the things that, man, that changed the game for me, man. I just love it. Love it for sure. But but that goes to, it's also an opportunity to connect. It's also an opportunity to connect to other people. So maybe there's some value in that for some guys that kind of need, or could use an opportunity to get out, do something new, grow, learn. You get out into nature, learn a new skill, all those kinds of things.
You learn how to be zen because that shot didn't go where you wanted it to go.
We gonna get Barry on the golf course.
Yeah,
man.
we're gonna
get Barry on the golf course.
We'll start with top golf, then take you putt-putt, and then we'll go real thing.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it because I got to tell you, every time I see y'all on Saturday or something, I'm a little jealous.
I'm telling you, man.
You're always invited.
Yeah, no doubt. Man.
Speaking of you're always invited, so we have this little thing coming up, August 24th, the Masculine Empowerment Network Summit happening in Parker, Colorado at the Parker Schoolhouse, and you were also invited to that.
No doubt.
We'd like to have you in the house because we're doing the same thing. Talking about personal development. We're bringing in, Kirk and I are speaking, we're co-MCing, but it's also about just bringing men together. We want to have 150, 200 men in the room so they can network together. Because like we were talking about, that circle of friends. If you're not where you want to be, sometimes you just got to put yourself in a new position, go into a new circle of friends and go to Barry's event. Well, it's sold out now, but go to Barry's next event.
Yeah.
Make sure you get on a list because he always has cool events, and the people and the caliber of people that are there is why you want to go. It's not necessarily about what you're going to learn. It's not necessarily about getting an aha moment and like changing your life because somebody said something, but it's like the people you meet. It's like the steps, you know, it's like, you know, the pathway starts with that one step. And sometimes that's that person you meet that goes, hey, meet this person, or you should meet this person.
And it is about getting into different spaces, getting into different rooms, I think that's probably maybe at least that was the first step in my personal development thing. I think I went to, it was billed as like a, you know, Tony Robbins thing down at a convention center. And then, you know, you had a guy talking about writing a book. You had a guy talking about, you know, real estate investment. You had a guy, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And that was kind of the beginning steps of even me publishing my first book. But, you know, getting into spaces and getting into rooms where you do meet and interact with different people. And, you know, that's kind of, yeah, one of the things that we have in our heart and passion for the vision for even this event with, you know, the guys that are organizing it is, you know, for men to come together, meet other men, connect with other men, you know, see a different face. And it's like, hey, I know that guy. Hey, I know that guy. And be able to, you know, to either connect with the guys or connect people with other guys. But the whole idea of us, you know, coming together as men, it shouldn't be, but it kind of is a newer, maybe a Renaissance concept that we are definitely due for in our culture.
Yeah, I think to that point, I think it's one of those things where women do it better because they come together to make themselves better. Yeah. When men will come together for barbecues, camping trips, playing golf, stuff like that, football games, you know, watch other people play. But now it's like we want to have a renaissance of personal development, of growth, of coming together to better ourselves.
Because men are the tide, and when the tide comes in, all boats rise. Yeah, you know, and that's why it's a pleasure for us to have a man like you kind of in our sphere of influence, in our circles of people that, you know, that we can point to or get pointed to. You know, you've introduced, man, we've had Adam. I mean, Adam is, you know, Adam's speaking at the summit, you know, in August, man. And he's, you know, he's even sponsoring the, you know, getting the table and stuff. And so, you know, you've connected us with different people and, you know, vice versa. And man, I love to see when you post your videos of your closings online and you got E-Class dropping them off and, you know, look at, you know, you got Everett doing his thing, man. And, you know, I've known him forever, but, you know, we had him and his wife here. And just put him, I mean, she's phenomenal. And so just, again, just the whole idea of connecting and knowing people and being able to have a circle of people that you know around town is phenomenal, man. And you're one of those guys.
Yeah, thank you.
So as we kind of come down, you know, we're heading towards the runway. We're kind of heading on that final approach. As the man that you are, having the experience you've had and building what you've had, what would be kind of like your 3 bullet points or top things that you would want to impart, you know, to somebody who's listening and be like, I like what he's saying. How can I get that?
You know, like I said, I think the mentorship, I had to go back to that. That was one for me because, again, and this is it's a humility piece because it's just like you were saying that women together to learn and grow from one another, whereas, you know, men, that may be more, whether it's machismo, whatever the case may be, it may be a little bit more challenging for us to accept someone as a mentor. And I can tell you, I had that struggle, that challenge as well in the beginning. But when I realized that, you know, there was a lot that I didn't know. And once I got to a point of realizing there were people willing to give me the information, you know, I was more than happy to be receiving of it. So, you know, the mentorship aspect of it, I think is very important. I think another piece is really knowing and understanding who you are. You know, a lot of times, you know, they say we don't, you know, people find God in prison. People find God when they're sick. Well, what happens in those instances, these are places where all the noise, all the distractions are removed and you're in a quiet place and God speaks in a whisper. So that's a lot of times why people find God in those places and in those times. And so for me, it's important that it doesn't take a tragedy or prison to happen to be able to connect and listen to the voice inside. So we have to have those quiet times for ourselves and really get to know who we are as men. And that was something, you know, again, I would say I was in my 40s when that happened. So it's not like, you know, this is going to happen at, you know, 18 or 21 necessarily. Maybe for some people it does. But it's a journey and it's a process. But knowing, you know, that you have to do those things to be able to find that, you know, in you. And then once you do, you know, sharing those gifts with other people, sharing what you learn about yourself with other people. That's why, you know, that's why I'm here today. And that's why I'm, you know, happy to talk about, you know, those experiences, you know, in these types of forums or even on a one-on-one standpoint, because if I can impart something to someone, especially when I can do it with someone that is younger, I love being able to share stuff with people that are in their 20s, because I'm like, I wish I would have got it at that time myself. How much further ahead would I be now if I'd have got this information 20 years earlier?
Yeah. So you knuckleheads out there that want to do good, find somebody that's doing something that you want to do. Find somebody that you emulate, that you look up to, and then either see if they'll be your mentor or follow their path. I mean, you know, you said it a couple times, Barry. It's like your uncle showed you, like, hey, I'm a police officer. I'm also in real estate. And then you're like, there's a blueprint. I'm going to follow that one versus this other one. And then along the way, find mentorship and continue to grow. Because I think a lot of times I remember I made the comment once to my dad, you know, rest in peace. I was like about 20 something, early 20s. I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to find myself. He's like, find yourself. You don't know who you are yet? And in my mind, it was kind of a non sequitur. I'm like, no, I'm still growing and learning and stuff. But I think a lot of times we have those times in our lives where some people, they just kind of know themselves or they think they do. But I think it's for kind of incumbent upon us, if we want to be the best men we can be, is to always grow, to continue to grow, and to continue looking for things to better ourselves with.
This is really kind of resonating with me right now, and I'm kind of it's making me on edge, because it's kind of one of the things that I think if you ever say somebody should do something about that somebody is probably you. And so I'm sitting here thinking, man, where is the mentorship track for men? Like, where is in our, like, you know, where is I hate to use the word program or something along that, but who has a curriculum for mentoring men and stuff that we don't know? You know, I mean, whether it's teens, younger men in their 20s, 30s, 40s, I don't know, but you know, there's stuff that I would love to know and learn, you know, even from a real estate perspective but you know, a lot of men don't know where to start with this whole thing. So I'm sitting here thinking, man, you know, what would it look like to have a mentorship track for men of whatever age, different topics, different things that we can learn and grow from, and all those other kind of things. And so, man,
it should be like what they should have taught you in school Bible.
All the stuff that we should have been taught. And I don't, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, well, what's the age? You know, is it you go to talk teenagers or 20 somethings or 30 somethings? And I'm like, I'm 51, man. And, you know, and I'm like,
we could create the new, like, you know, that Chicken Soup for the Soul series. It could be the mentorship for the young man
I'm
series.
almost thinking like a boot camp kind of thing, man. You know, like a boot camp series of stuff that we don't know. And this is kind of why we have most of the guests that we have on. You know, we're not a typical radio podcast kind of thing where people just bring on people to talk about what they're doing. Like, you know, we like people that show up with seed and not just need, right? And so, you know, we had Claude on not too long ago talking about just, you know, health and fitness and
all the protein,
all those other kind of things. We've had you on. We had, you know, you introduced us to Issa, you know, to Israel. I mean, we had him on. We've had a guy come on talking about estate planning. All these other kind of things are stuff that we don't normally talk about. But I'm thinking, man, where's the boot camp thing for guys? Doesn't exist that I know of.
Guess we have something else to do later on.
Anyhow.
Yep. Well, speaking of later on, it has been later on, and it has been a wonderful episode. It's been another wonderful visit from you, Barry.
But how can people get a hold of you, Barry?
How can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on IG. Just Barry Overton is my handle name there. Facebook, Barry L. Overton. LinkedIn, Barry Overton. So we keep it real simple there. Phone number is 303-668-5433. feel free to reach out. Happy to talk, whether it's real estate related or whether it is about the topics that we talked about today. Happy to have those conversations. I have a 16-year-old kid right now that I'm mentoring because he wants to become a real estate agent, and we're meeting tomorrow. He'll spend 6 hours with me tomorrow. So that's something that if you're seeking me out, I'll find the time to make for you.
And again, I love about you, man. You're a man with seed. You don't show up with your hand out, looking for something, looking for the come up. Like I love that. When you show up in a room, the room is better. You're one of those kind of guys.
Let me reiterate that number. It's 303-668-5433.
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I'm going to put that in the comments so people can find you easier. And Barry, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, we appreciate you, my man.
Hopefully you'll get to all come in and be the cool kids at your event Wednesday. But until next time, we'll definitely have you back.
Gotta come back.
We are the Madmen. Thank you for being a part of the Madmen Mafia. Like and subscribe on YouTube, comment, share, tell us how much you love us and hate us. And until next time, Madmen out.